It was just another late night after work. I lived on the 6th floor of an old apartment building, and I always dreaded the elevator. It was slow, creaky, and smelled faintly of metal and dust. Still, it was better than climbing 6 flights of stairs after a 12-hour shift. That night, I stepped in, pressed a button for my floor, and leaned against the wall. The flickering fluorescent light above buzzed faintly. I thought I'd be alone, but on the 2nd floor, the doors opened. A tall man stepped in. He didn't say a word. He didn't even look at me. His hands were shoved into his pockets. And he didn't press a button. The doors closed, and the ride continued in silence. That's when I noticed something unsettling. He hadn't told the elevator where to stop. I try not to overthink it. Maybe he had already pressed his floor before I got in. But as we passed the 3rd floor, the doors opened again. The hallway outside was empty. No one entered. The man still didn't move. He just stood there, perfectly still, staring at the door. The doors closed again, and we moved on. On the 4th floor, the same thing happened. Doors opened. Empty hallway. Silence. The man didn't press a button. My chest tightened. Something about this didn't feel right. Elevators don't just stop at random floors, unless someone inside tells them to. And the only one who could have done that was him. By the time we passed the 5th floor, I felt the weight of his presence pressing down on me. He slowly turned his head, his eyes locking onto mine. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. Just stared. I felt the urge to say something, but my throat was dry. The hum of the elevator filled the silence between us. The doors opened again. Empty. My heart pounded harder with each stop. I started to wonder if this was intentional, if he was playing some kind of sick game. The air inside the elevator felt suffocating, like the walls were closing in. Every second dragged. Every floor felt farther away. And all I could think about was whether the doors would ever open to let me out. I shifted my weight, pretending not to notice him, but I could feel his eyes burning into me. Slowly, his lips curled into the faintest smile. That smile froze me in place. It wasn't friendly. It was knowing, as if he enjoyed my discomfort. When the elevator jolted slightly, I nearly jumped. He didn't flinch. He just kept staring, his smile never fading. I wanted to scream, to press the emergency button, but my body wouldn't move. I was paralyzed by the weight of his silence. It felt like the ride would never end. Finally, the elevator dinged at the 6th floor. The door slid open, and without thinking, I bolted out. My footsteps echoed down the hallway as I rushed to my apartment, fumbling with my keys. I forced myself to look back just once. He was still inside, standing perfectly still, his eyes fixed on me as the doors closed in slow motion. I slammed my apartment door shut and locked it, my heart racing. That night, I barely slept. To this day, I still don't understand why he never pressed a button. But I'll never forget the way he looked at me, as if the entire ride had been for him, not me. I got into the elevator just before midnight, tired from a night class and craving nothing but a shower and sleep. I pressed the button for my floor and leaned back against the stainless steel wall. The light flickered once. Old building, old elevator, nothing new. On the next floor, the door slid open. A man stepped in wearing a dark hoodie. He didn't look at me. He turned and planted himself directly in front of the control panel, shoulders squared, hands down at his sides. I waited for him to press a floor. He didn't. The doors closed, and we started up. The hum of the motor filled the car. I told myself not to make assumptions. People act weird sometimes. Still, a knot formed in my stomach. There was nowhere to go, just 4 metal walls and a stranger blocking the only buttons I could use. I cleared my throat and kept my voice polite. "Hey, sorry, can I press my floor?" No answer. Not a nod, not a shrug. He stood there like a statue. "Excuse me." I tried again, stepping forward a little. He shifted just enough to keep the panel covered. I stopped. The light flickered again, reflecting a warped version of my face in the steel. The elevator creaked as we climbed. I could hear my pulse in my ears. I watched the floor numbers crawl by. He still hadn't pressed anything. I checked the emergency button in my periphery. too close to him. If he didn't like me reaching for it, I had no room to react. We passed a floor. Then another. I tried to steady my breathing. Look, I just need to. The man tilted his head slightly, as if listening for something outside the car. The movement was small, but it froze me. The elevator doors opened on a dim, empty hallway. Neither of us moved. They closed again. We kept going. I considered wedging my hand between the doors on the next stop and forcing my way out. But if he took a step forward when they opened, I'd be pinned. I pictured it over and over. None of the versions ended well. So I waited, counting seconds, eyes on the digital display, searching for some kind of pattern. There wasn't one. Without warning, the elevator jolted hard and stopped. The car shuddered. The number display went blank for a beat before flickering back to life. Between floors. I grabbed the rail to steady myself. He finally looked up, not at me, at the little panel where the emergency phone sat. A slow smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, like he was enjoying the moment. I swallowed and forced my voice to work. "There's a helpline," I said, pointing past him. He didn't move. The car was quiet enough that I could hear the fan fluttering behind the ceiling panel. My throat felt dry, my hands clammy. If this turned into a panic attack, I'd be useless. I made myself breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Somewhere above us, the motor whined. The car twitched. Then, mercifully, it began to crawl upward again. When the doors finally opened on my floor, I stepped forward. He didn't budge, still covering the panel, but he shifted just enough that I could slip past him sideways. I kept my eyes forward, body tight, ready to run if a hand grabbed my arm. Nothing touched me. I cleared the threshold and walked out, forcing myself not to sprint. The door started to close. I turned. He was still inside, staring straight ahead, unreadable. The door sealed with a soft thud. I didn't take the elevator for weeks after that. Stairs, every time, even with groceries. Maybe the stall was a coincidence. Maybe he was just strange. But the way he stood between me and every option, the buttons, the phone, the doors, felt deliberate. And once you've been trapped in a moving box with someone who enjoys your fear, you never ride an elevator the same way again. It was close to midnight when I got into the elevator of the hotel. The halls were empty, the kind of silence that makes every sound echo louder than it should. I pressed the button for the lobby and leaned against the wall, relieved to finally be heading down. Just as the doors were about to close, a hand shot through the gap. The door slid open and a man slipped in. He gave me a brief glance but said nothing. He didn't press a button. The doors closed again and the car began to descend. I assumed he was in the lobby as well, but something about his stillness made me uneasy. His hands hung loosely at his sides, his eyes fixed on the floor indicator. The hum of the elevator felt deafening. I kept my eyes on the glowing numbers, counting down each floor, wishing the ride would end quickly. That's where he leaned slightly closer, closing the gap between us in a way that made my skin crawl. I tried to ignore him, staring straight ahead, but I could feel his presence pressing against me. "Long day?" I muttered awkwardly, just to break the tension. He didn't respond. Instead, he tilted his head and whispered, "Do you ever wonder how easy it would be if no one ever saw you again?" The words froze me. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I wanted to laugh it off, pretend it was a bad joke, but his tone wasn't playful. It was flat, almost contemplative. The elevator dinged at another floor, but the doors didn't open. We kept descending, slower now, each second stretching unbearably long. I kept my eyes on the numbers, my breath shallow, every nerve in my body screaming to get out. He leaned closer, his voice dropping lower. I couldn't catch every word, but fragments slipped through, disappear, no one would know silence. My palms were slick with sweat. I pressed myself against the wall, desperate to put any distance between us. The fluorescent light above flickered, and for a moment the car was plunged into shadow. My stomach lurched. When the light steadied again, he was staring directly at me. I swallowed hard, trying to think. Should I press the alarm? Should I scream? My throat tightened, refusing to obey. Every second felt like I was trapped in a nightmare that wouldn't end. The elevator seemed to slow, crawling down floor by floor. Each ding echoed through the car like a warning bell. He whispered again, almost gently this time, as if confiding in me. It only takes one moment, one quiet place. I felt like my legs would give out beneath me. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay upright, refusing to show how terrified I was. The lobby button glowed faintly, mocking me with how far it still was. I silently begged for the ride to be over, for the doors to open, but time moved slower than I thought possible. At last, the elevator dinged. The doors opened to the empty lobby, golden light spilling into the car. I didn't wait. I rushed out, nearly tripping as I sprinted across the marble floor. I didn't look back until I reached the glass doors leading outside. He hadn't moved. He was still inside, standing in the same spot, watching me. The doors slid shut, hiding him from view. I stumbled into the street, my heart hammering so hard it hurt. I never told the hotel staff. I couldn't find the words. But I'll never forget that voice, whispering in the dark. And even now, years later, I avoid elevators whenever I can. Because sometimes you don't know who you'll be trapped with